Let's turn our attention back to our little JSON web server thing we wrote in lesson 4, and let's expand on the functionality. We're going to eventually turn this into a full functioning web application and JSON server. So it's, in addition to serving up just JSON, it's also going to need to sort of help us bootstrap our web application process by serving some static files. So let's go ahead and do that. Under lesson 6 called application, and here I put the simple JSON server that we wrote at the end of lesson 4, and I've called it server.js instead. So let's go and load that in, and that's in server.js, and it's basically the exact same server we wrote before. I'd like to be able to serve up some static content, for example, an HTML file. So I'm going to create a new URL pattern called content/blah.html, and you can provide any sort of file name here you want to load. So we'll need to do a couple of things. We'll first need to modify our URL scheme to support this new URL pattern, and then we'll actually need to write the code to serve up this static content. So first thing I'm going to say is if the core URL substring from 0 to 9 equals /content like that, and that's 7, 8, 9 characters, great. And else, I'm going to say serve static content rec request like that. Okay, so that's all I had to do to modify my URL. That was pretty easy. So let's now begin writing this serve static content function. So serve static content rec res. First thing I need to do is extract the name of the file, and that is going to be as simple as going rec.parsedURL.pathname. That's this thing up here. And we'll do subster everything after number 9, and that'll give us the name of the file we want to load. Now, do I have fs included here? Yes, I do, so I don't need to add that anymore. So I'm going to create a read stream, and that's create read stream with the, I've created here, you'll see, in the app folder, I've created a subfolder called content, and in that content I've put a little file called test.html. Okay, so I'm going to look in the content subfolder, and I'm going to look for the file name we just extracted there. Now I'm going to say rs.on, as we've done before, readable. I'm going to give it a function, var d equals rs.read, and if type of d equals string. First thing we need to do is we need to do a write head, and we need to say it's a 200 response, and we want to give it the contents type as well. Content type of text HTML. And now we can actually just start writing. We can say res.write d. Else if type of d equals object and d is a buffer, then we want to say res.write d.toString UTF-8 like that. Okay, so that's, and I clearly have some sort of missing parenthesis like that. So that's what we're going to do when we get the readable event, and then on rs.on, when we get the end event, we will just say response.end like that. And if we've done this all correctly, let's double check. We will take the path name, we'll create a read stream, we'll send out the sort of happy write head 200 with the text HTML. When we get some new data, we read in the data, we write it to the output stream, whether it's a buffer or a string, and then when we're done, we say response.end. So let's go here, and is my server no, there it is. Okay, so let's say node server. Now let's go to our other window here, and we'll say lesson 6 app. Now we should be able to say curl-i-xget localhost 8080, and we should be able to say content/test.html. And there you go. This is the content of our HTML file in the content folder. You'll see here we got the 200. We now have a content type of text HTML, and you'll see here that we have some other headers that Node gives us for free, and then this is indeed the contents of our file. So let us go here. We should be able to type in localhost 8080 content test HTML, and there we go. That's the stuff working. So now our web server can serve up basic static files. So let's handle one more case, and that is what happens if the user asks for a file name that doesn't exist, like that. Right now, our server crashes, and that's because, again, we don't handle the error event. So let's go ahead and add that. And we'll add the error event and function err. Now what we want to do is we want to say res.writeHead 404, and then we want to say content type. And here we'll go back to just doing JSON again. And we want to say res.end json.stringify, and then we'll say error resource not found with the message, I don't know, let's just be quick. What's that? Okay, so that's all we'll do here. Now I think we're going to have a problem with this, so let's go ahead and try it and verify and see what happens. Okay, we actually didn't. I was actually expecting to have a problem because we've written the header here, and now we've gone ahead and written the header out here again. That has been a problem in previous versions of Node, but it looks like we'll get away with it for now. What I would probably opt to do, just to be safe, is I would say var wrote equals false, and then I would say here I would only write out the correct if the correct 200 header if I if I started reading successfully and I was sure that I was sure that the file actually existed, and then this is going to be a little bit safer. But now we have the ability to serve static content from our HTML server, and we can look to continue expanding on that in the next part.